Hi guys! So today this is going to be a very unique video and I've never filmed anything like this, but I want to be addressing about this struggle that I've faced for about 2 years of my life, I think. And not many of the people around me know about this, but I thought that now that I've overcome it will be good to just raise awareness that it is okay to struggle with certain things in your life, especially with your body. And I wanted to also empower ladies and gentlemen to know that, it is not the end of the day and your bodies are not really it's not everything that matters in your life. So I'm gonna start with my story of how I even got diagnosed with this disorder and my whole process, how I felt, and how I overcame it. I'm gonna run you guys through it briefly. Okay, so I'm gonna start by saying that it all started when I wanted to lose a lot of weight. I remember I went to London to live for a few months, and I think I was eating a lot more than I used to because of the weather. It was really cold over there, and I was accustomed to Asia weather where it's humid and hot, but when I went to London it was a very cold weather, so I think naturally your body needs a lot more energy, but I kind of all overcompensated and I gained substantially, like pretty I would say like I was 45 to 47 kilograms during that point of time, and then I went up to 52 to 53. So for me that was a lot. And I remember like when I came back to Malaysia from London, everyone was like, "Whoa, you gained weight." And it bothered me so much that I started to, try to lose weight. So that was when COVID happened. And it was a blessing in disguise as well. So I'm not saying that this whole process was daunting. It was daunting, but it also brought me a lot of blessings, and I learned so many things about food in this whole process too. So I wanted to talk about how I used to never take care of my health. I just ate junk food most part of my life. I never really even ate vegetables, and I was suffering from constipation all the time before I started this weight loss journey during COVID. But during COVID, I was determined to lose a lot of weight and to gain back that old version of myself I thought I needed, and to show people that, I'm skinny again. So the problem with, I think, this whole process was just me trying to live up to people's standards of beauty. And I just couldn't accept the fact that, I was always known to be someone who's quite skinny, but I suddenly just kind of like became chubbier than I was. And I did not love that part of myself, which was why I suffered with this disorder, is because I just couldn't accept myself for who I am, and I just can't accept that I just love food and what I can make out of it. So in that weight loss journey that happened in COVID, it was super unhealthy. I did like 500 to 800 calories per day, which is to me not healthy at all. I went from about eating 2,000 calories per day and drastically just dropped to 500 to 800 in a month time. And I didn't just cut on calories. I started to eat super clean. Like I would weigh all of my food. I would weigh my salmon. I would weigh my spinach. I would even weigh my olive oil to see that it was the perfect amount that I needed to hit my quota. It was insane, and it was so hard for me because even that wasn't enough, and I was working out like crazy. So can you imagine, like, I'm already only consuming 500 to 800 calories per day, and I was still working out intensely. I think I was burning about 300 to 500 calories per day, which meaning like in a day, like it wasn't even enough to compensate what I did for the day. So this was how I lost weight really fast. In about a 45-day cycle, a month and a half, I went from 52 kilograms to 46. And I was so happy, and I was like, wait, you know what? I can become even skinnier. So I just continued for about 2 months, and I dropped to like the lowest being 42 or 43. And I was obsessed with looking skinnier and skinnier. And just all of a sudden COVID decided to get better, and when we could, like dine in restaurants again, my craving for food immensely just went on a like upward spiral. And when I saw food, I wanted to devour everything on the table. Like, my dad was worried for me. He was like, "You look like you have not eaten for like 3 days." My senses were numbed. Like, I didn't even know if I was hungry or full anymore. I just kept eating everything that I saw on the table. This was when my binging and purging started to begin, was when, I could not resist my temptation towards food, but I still saw myself gaining a lot of weight because I started to binge eat for about 3 weeks. It was insane because I gained back like 5 or 6 kilograms of weight just in 3 weeks. So this is why it's not healthy to do a weight loss plan like that. It is not sustainable at all, and your body just goes into starvation mode. And there's just so many things I don't even want to those terms I don't even want to properly say, because I'm not a certified nutritionist or am I a dietitian. I'm just sharing my journey, but I just wanted to say it in layman terms, what I've personally really experienced in this whole journey. At first, I didn't purge yet. I just kept binging, and when I saw that my weight became 50 kilograms again, it made me go crazy, and I was like, shit, but I need to eat, shit, but I want to lose weight. So what I did was I would punish myself. I would go to the gym like crazy. I wanted to burn the calories that I excessively ate unconsciously, because I was just not being able to control my mind, my body, and my soul. They weren't aligned. And every time I would tell myself, oh, you know what, it's all right, I don't have to be so skinny. But then when I go on social media, or when I get reminded of how skinny I could get, I started to punish myself again. It went on, and I think it was about 3 months after I started to binge a lot, I started to purge, because I read online that if you make yourself vomit, you can vomit 30% of the food out. So all these things are not even 100% true. I just read it from different sources because I was desperate for a direction in my life. I wasn't able to sail my own ship, and I just needed affirmations to make me feel like I was enough. But guess what? It wasn't enough for me. And it was so toxic that it got to a point where I would hide myself eating from people. Like, I would tell my mom, like, oh, you know what, today I'm not gonna eat the whole day. And I went on all sorts of fastings, like intermittent fasting, 48 hours fasting, keto diet, every kind of diet. So it was so overwhelming that I kept it close to myself enough that I don't think any of my friends realized that I had this problem. And this is why I tell you guys that at the end of the day, if you are only going to do things because of the intention that you want others to look at you at a certain way, you are only going to do more self-harm to yourself more and more, and you are never going to be happy or fulfilled. Or even when you're already like a skinny or like a good-looking person, you are never going to feel confident or enough deep down. I may look like a very confident like young lady to many people in those years, but I was hiding my demon inside. Like, I was hiding my conflict. I was hiding this uneasiness and my need to rely on what people say and even food to feed my emptiness. And I just wanted to tell young women, young men, or even old women or old men that you really don't need to do this to yourself. Honestly, like, it will all only come together, or it would only be enough if you start to love your body. And yes, you can set goals for yourself, but it has to be realistic goals that are healthy and sustainable for your system. What I think really made me really pull away from this whole disorder or this whole toxic cycle was when I started to work on self-love, I started to work on self-growth, and I started to see the root towards a lot of my traumas and a lot of my insecurities. I think that a lot of psychological problems or even a lot of inner conflicts and traumas really stem from unhealed hurts that you have. And I don't know exactly that point that I stopped, but I just think that I just let myself binge like crazy, and I just stopped fighting myself, and I was just like, you know what? If you want to eat, just eat whatever you want. And I started to go on like a 3,000, 5,000 calorie per day thing. And when I got to the point where it was just that overconsumption was just too much for my body, and I started to, you know, heal myself more and started to just take care of my mental health a lot more. But here I have just 3 tips. I wouldn't say that it would work 100%, but I think that it's a good reminder to have to people who are still struggling from something like this. Number 1, I think very importantly is to always remember that you are enough, and you don't need your body to look a certain way, or you don't need your numbers on the scale to tell you how much your worth is. The reason why you even have this conflict in yourself that you have to binge and purge, or you have an eating disorder, or you think there's a need to be constantly skinnier, is just because you think that your worth is measured by the shape of your body and your weight, but it really is not. We are all loved by the universe with our existence and the people around us. So I just hope that you treat yourself kinder and more gently in this process of being a human being and crafting your own life, because it's not gonna be easy, and it's not gonna get easier. You're only gonna get better at handling and coping with everything. Number 2 is, every time you have a conflict within yourself, write it down. Take a journal, take a piece of paper, and write down that uneasiness or that struggle that you're having. When you name this feeling that you have, it sometimes it just magically disappears. I remember there was once I was writing on a paper, I did it again. I wanted to eat Oreos, but my mind told me that eating Oreos make me fat, but I still ate Oreos, and now I feel so guilty. I want to vomit again. After I wrote this out, I just didn't want to vomit anymore. When you write, you immediately enter a more peaceful version of yourself, and you don't feel the need to react to your body's response system. Like, sometimes when you're hungry, you need to ask yourself, are you really hungry? Or are you just greedy? Or are you just bored? Ask yourself questions and have conversations with yourself. Normalize talking to yourself and normalize having conversations with yourself. You don't need to rely on people for affirmations and for connections. Most of the time you only have yourself. People are busy with their lives. No one's gonna give a damn, honestly. I mean, they are, but to a certain extent, because everyone has so much that they're dealing with in this society nowadays. Everyone is sort of messed up in their own way, and that's the beauty of it. But I hope that we learn to see the beauty behind it by just loving ourselves. So tip number 3 that I have is probably just accept and allow every phase of you, no matter how ugly it gets or no matter how disgusting you think you are. You just have to deal with it. You just have to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm suffering from some sort of disorder right now, and yeah, I just feel like eating up 10 meals in just 2 hours, and just accept it. And sometimes you probably need to experience it in order to move on. Like, I had to suffer from constant fluctuations in my weight and constant tears and nerve-wracking experiences I had when I forced myself to vomit, and I would go out of the toilet having like guilt shaming emotions. I was just ashamed of myself. But honestly, if it's really what it takes for you to grow, don't be ashamed of it. Sometimes these things that happen to you may seem like the worst things ever, but they really make you grow as a person, and you have to think of these things as a blessing, because I mean, like, come on, using my experience, I'm now able to possibly tell thousands or even millions of people who choose to see this video that, you know, you're not alone. And so many times we feel depressed because we think we're alone, but we are not. And don't look up to people according to how they look or according to how they portray themselves. Social media, I think, is healthy when you use it to learn and inspire and influence one another. I don't think that it's healthy to look up to people and only the perfect parts that they choose to show you, which is why I chose to make this video. And I wanted to be very transparent to people that, you know what, yeah, I have had this past, and I'm so comforted and I'm so blessed that I've moved on from this, and it has now become this milestone of mine that I'm gonna bring to my next and upcoming pathways of my journey. And I'm going to just share this message with all of you that it is okay to be imperfect, and even if you don't become that version of yourself that you want yet, you can obviously keep creating and keep crafting. And for me now, I still love food and I still take care of my body image, and I'm still someone who has high expectations towards my figure, but I do it in a very healthy way. I try to build this healthy relationship with my body, to know what it needs, to know what I like to truly eat and what is good for my body. And from there, I work on to a very healthy diet. And I'm still not eating the healthiest, of course, but I'm working towards a more balanced lifestyle day by day. And I'm still fighting, I'm still trying. I'm definitely still not there yet. People always ask if, are you there yet? I don't think I'm ever there yet. Like, unless I die, there's still so much for me to work on. And I just want to tell you guys that every one of you are inspirational in your own way. So I hope that more people find the courage to, if you want, just make a voice in this world, and your voice will be heard. And even if it's not, you're hearing yourself already, and that's all that matters. So in this video, I just wanted to give you guys some light and love and positivity, as I always want to. Even when I wasn't enough, and even when I was struggling, I still kept trying to give to the world, because this is just a thing that I've always had in me. I just think that, you know, even when you're half of a moon, you can always shine for people. And this is why I tell everyone to never stop shining the way you are. Even if you're incomplete, it doesn't freaking matter. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.